The stars looked cold and distant from the observation deck of the Kethvar command ship. Admiral Zexthul stood with his forearms crossed behind his back, watching the blue-green world that turned slowly below them. Earth, the locals called it. Such a simple name for what would soon become another jewel in the hegemony's crown. "Admiral," came the voice of his aide, Commander Veltar. "The human delegation has arrived at the neutral station." Zexthul turned his massive head toward the younger officer. His species had evolved from pack hunters, and even after thousands of years of civilization, they still looked the part. Sharp teeth, predator eyes, and claws that could tear through metal. It made negotiations so much easier when the other side could see exactly what they were dealing with. "Good. Have they been informed of the standard terms?" "Yes, sir. Submit to vassal status. Provide yearly tribute of resources and population, or face complete annihilation." Veltar paused, checking his datapad. The terms were transmitted in their native language, along with historical recordings of what happened to the last 12 species who refused. Zexthul nodded. The recordings were quite effective. The glassing of Terrell Prime usually convinced even the most stubborn species to see reason. Entire continents turned to radioactive glass in mere hours. Cities that had stood for millennia reduced to glowing craters. Populations that had numbered in the billions simply gone. "What do we know about these humans?" the Admiral asked, moving to his command chair. Veltar activated a holographic display. The image of a bipedal creature appeared, standing upright, on 2 legs, with only 2 arms. They looked almost fragile compared to the Kethvar's powerful build. Standard carbon-based life form. They've only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. Their technology appears primitive by our standards. Single-planet civilization with some basic orbital installations. Population approximately 8 billion. Individuals. Weapons capabilities. Kinetic projectiles. Primitive energy weapons. Basic nuclear technology. Nothing that could pose a threat to even our oldest ships. Veltar scrolled through more data. They appear to have some form of planetary defense grid, but our scans suggest it's primarily designed to intercept asteroids and space debris. Zexthul laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Asteroid defense against the hegemony fleet. How charmingly naive." The communication console chimed, indicating an incoming transmission from the neutral station. "Admiral, we're receiving a response from the human delegation. Put it through." The main view screen activated, showing a conference room aboard the neutral station. 3 humans sat at a simple metal table. They wore dark blue uniforms with small insignias that meant nothing to Zexthul. The center figure, an older human with gray hair, stood up slowly. "I am Ambassador Harrison of the United Earth Government. We have received your terms and reviewed the historical data you provided." Zexthul leaned forward in his chair. This was usually where the pleading began. The desperate offers of negotiation, the promises of compliance, the tears and begging. He had seen it all before. "And?" the Admiral prompted. Ambassador Harrison looked directly into the camera. His face showed no fear, no desperation, no anger, just a calm, almost sad expression. "We respectfully decline your terms. We request that you leave our space immediately." Silence filled the command bridge. Veltar's mandibles clicked nervously. The other bridge officers exchanged glances. In 3 centuries of conquest, no species had ever responded quite like this. "I'm sorry," Zexthul said slowly. "Did you just say you decline?" "Yes, Admiral. We decline to become vassals of the Kethvar hegemony. We also decline to provide tribute, and we respectfully request that you remove your forces from Earth space within the next 24 hours. Zexthul stood up, his full height making him tower over his command console. "Perhaps you did not understand the recordings we sent. Those were real events, real worlds, real populations that no longer exist because they made the same choice you appear to be making." Harrison nodded. We understood perfectly. The destruction was quite thorough. We're sorry for the loss of life those civilizations suffered. Then you understand what will happen to your world if you maintain this position? We understand what you believe will happen, Harrison replied. But we still must respectfully decline your offer. The word respectfully hung in the air. Zexthul had conquered 47 star systems. He had received the surrender of countless species. He had heard every possible response to the hegemony's demands. But never once had anyone said respectfully while refusing to surrender. You're being respectful, Zexthul said, while essentially declaring war on the most powerful empire in the galaxy. We're not declaring war, Admiral. We're simply declining your offer and asking you to leave. There's a difference. Veltar whispered something to his admiral, but Zexthul waved him away. This was fascinating. The humans appeared to genuinely believe they could refuse the hegemony and survive. Either they were the most delusional species he had ever encountered, or they knew something he didn't. Ambassador Harrison, let me be very clear about your situation. My fleet contains 200 ships, each capable of destroying every major city on your world. Behind me is the full might of the HFY hegemony, over 50,000 vessels, weapons that can crack planets, and the experience of conquering half the galaxy. What exactly makes you think you can refuse our offer? Harrison was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was even gentler than before. Admiral, we don't want any trouble. We just want to be left alone. Surely in a galaxy this large, there's room for one small world to choose its own path? No, Zexthul said flatly. There isn't. The galaxy belongs to the strong. The weak serve or they die. This is the natural order. That's one way to see things, Harrison agreed. But it's not the only way. The Admiral felt his temper beginning to rise. The calm, reasonable tone was somehow more infuriating than screaming. Would have been. I'm going to give you one more chance, human. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to live as vassals. Your cities will remain standing. Your children will grow up to serve the hegemony. Refuse, and every human life will end in fire. Harrison looked at his two companions. They nodded almost imperceptibly. Admiral Zexthul of the HFY hegemony, this is humanity's final answer. We respectfully decline your offer. We ask again that you please leave our space. This is your only warning. The transmission ended. Zexthul stared at the blank screen for several seconds. Around him, the bridge crew waited in stunned silence. Sir? Veltar finally asked. Your orders? The Admiral sat back down heavily. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans weren't angry or defiant in the way he understood. They weren't pleading or negotiating. They had simply said no, as if refusing the hegemony was the most natural thing in the world. Commander, compile everything we know about human military capabilities. I want a complete analysis of their defensive systems, fleet strength, and weapons technology. Sir, our scans show they have perhaps 50 small vessels, primitive fusion drives, basic hull plating. Their most powerful weapons appear to be nuclear devices that wouldn't scratch the paint on our shields. Then explain to me why they're not afraid. Veltar consulted his datapad again. Perhaps they're simply too primitive to understand the threat. Some species lack the cognitive ability to properly assess danger. Zexthul considered this. It was possible. He had encountered species before that were too simple to understand what was happening to them. But something about the human ambassador's tone suggested otherwise. Harrison had understood perfectly well what the hegemony was offering. He just didn't seem to care. Sir, the fleet is requesting orders. Should we begin bombardment of military targets? No, not yet. Zexthul stood up and walked back to the observation window. The blue world below looked so peaceful, so unaware of the massive guns pointed at it. Signal the fleet. We withdraw. To the edge of the system and wait. Sir? 24 hours. They asked for 24 hours. We'll give them that much time to reconsider. And if they don't reconsider? Zextul's reflection looked back at him from the armored glass. He had destroyed worlds before. It was never pleasant, but it was sometimes necessary. The strong ruled, the weak served. This was the way of things. But something about the humans bothered him. Their calm certainty, their polite refusal, the way they had said please while essentially telling the hegemony's greatest fleet to go away. If they don't reconsider, he said slowly, then we'll give them the same choice we gave all the others. Surrender or burn. Behind him, Veltar made a note in his log. Another day, another primitive species refusing to see reason. The outcome was inevitable, of course. It always was. But as the Kethvar fleet pulled back to the edge of Earth's solar system, Admiral Zextul found himself wondering about that word the humans kept using. Respectfully. What kind of species remained respectful while staring down annihilation? He supposed he would find out soon enough. The 24 hours passed slowly. Long-range sensors showed no unusual activity from Earth, no massive mobilization of their tiny fleet, no desperate construction of new defenses, no attempts to contact other species for help. Nothing. When the deadline arrived, Zextul opened communications with the neutral station one more time. Ambassador Harrison appeared on screen, looking exactly as calm as he had the day before. "Admiral, have you reconsidered our request?" "Have you reconsidered yours?" Zextul replied. "I'm afraid not. We must again ask you to leave our space." "Then you leave me no choice." Harrison nodded sadly. "I understand. We're sorry it has to be this way." Sorry. They were sorry. As if the destruction of their entire species was somehow regrettable, but unavoidable. Zextul cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. "Begin bombardment of military targets. Start with their orbital stations." "Yes, sir." The first Kethvar ships moved into Earth orbit, their massive guns charging. Whatever secrets the humans thought they had, whatever delusions of power they maintained, reality was about to teach them the truth about their place in the galaxy. The strong ruled, the weak served, and humanity was about to learn which one they were. The silence was the first thing that bothered High Command. Fleet Admiral Zextul's 200 ships had moved into Earth orbit exactly as planned. Long-range sensors showed them taking positions around the human homeworld. The first shots had been fired at orbital defense platforms. Then nothing. Supreme Commander Korval stood in the central command chamber of the hegemony's capital ship, watching displays that should have been showing victory reports. Instead, they showed empty space where the fleet should have been. "Any communication from Admiral Zextul?" he asked for the 10th time in the past hour. "No, sir. All ships went silent approximately 6 hours ago. Last transmission was confirmation that they were beginning bombardment of human defensive positions." Korval's 4 eyes narrowed. "Equipment failure?" "Unlikely, sir. 200 ships don't all suffer communication failures at the same time." The Supreme Commander walked between the massive tactical displays. Each one showed the same thing. The empty space around Earth where his fleet should have been. Long-range sensors detected no debris fields, no energy signatures from battle, no trace that 200 Kethvar warships had ever existed. "Launch probe ships! I want to know what happened!" 3 days later, the probe ships returned with footage that made no sense. Earth hung peacefully in space, exactly as it had before. Human orbital stations continued their slow rotations. Small civilian ships moved between them on routine flights. There was no sign of battle, no damaged installations, no indication that the most powerful fleet in the local sector had ever been there. "This is impossible," Korval muttered, reviewing the footage for the 15th time. "Ships don't just vanish." His aide, a younger Kethvar named Texanol, cleared his throat nervously. "Sir, should we report to High Command?" "Report what?" That we sent a fleet to conquer a primitive world and it disappeared without a trace? Korval's voice carried the edge of frustration. They'll think we've lost our minds. But protocol was protocol. The report went up the chain of command, each level treating it with increasing disbelief. By the time it reached the Hegemony Council, the official response was predictable. Send another fleet, larger this time. The second fleet contained 500 ships under Admiral Kexmore, one of the Hegemony's most experienced commanders. Kexmore had personally overseen the conquest of 12 systems. He did not believe in impossible disappearances. Humans are tricky, he told his officers before departure. Clearly they have some kind of stealth technology we weren't prepared for. We'll go in with active scanning, full shields, weapons charged. Whatever happened to Zexathul won't happen to us. The second fleet vanished exactly like the first. 500 ships, gone without a trace. No distress signals, no weapon signatures, no debris. The probe ships that followed found Earth exactly as peaceful as before, its inhabitants going about their daily lives as if nothing had happened. High Command was no longer dismissive. Emergency meetings were called. Intelligence analysts pored over every scrap of data about the human system. Scientists proposed theories ranging from hidden alien artifacts to natural spatial anomalies. The third fleet was even larger. 1,000 ships under Admiral Nexrian, who had conquered more worlds than any other living Kethvar. If anyone could solve the mystery of Earth, it would be her. The third fleet also vanished. By now, word was spreading throughout the hegemony. The impossible was happening. 3 fleets, nearly 2,000 ships total, had simply ceased to exist. Other species under Kethvar rule began to whisper among themselves. Tributary worlds exchanged nervous glances. If the mighty hegemony could lose entire fleets to a single primitive world, what did that mean for the rest of the galaxy? This is becoming embarrassing, declared Chancellor Vexel at the Emergency Council session. 3 fleets lost to a species that barely understands faster than light travel. The entire sector is starting to question our strength. Which is exactly why we can't stop now, replied War Leader Mexton. If we withdraw, every vassal species will see it as weakness. We'll face rebellions throughout our territory. The fourth fleet was different. Instead of a single massive assault, they sent it in waves, with communication probes scattered throughout the formation. If something was destroying Kethvar ships, they would at least get some kind of warning. They did. The first wave of the fourth fleet managed to transmit for almost 3 minutes before going silent. The recordings were played and replayed in Hegemony command centers across the galaxy. Fleet Command, this is Admiral Yexdar. We are approaching Earth orbital space. Human defensive installations appear minimal, exactly as reported. Beginning engagement of... Wait, I'm reading some kind of energy buildup. Not from the human stations, from empty space itself. Command, are you receiving this? The space around us is... It's changing. Reality distortion readings are off the charts. What in the name of the ancestors is... Static. Then... Silence. The second wave lasted 4 minutes. Their final transmission was even more disturbing. Command, this is Admiral Lexvor. The first wave is gone. Not destroyed, gone. There's no debris, no energy residue. It's like they never existed. We're detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system. The laws of physics appear to be... Command, you need to see this. Space itself is bending around us. Our instruments are reading impossible energy levels from what appears to be empty vacuum. We're going to try to withdraw and... Command? Command, can you hear me? Something's happening to our communications array. No, wait. Something's happening. To us. We're... static. The third wave never transmitted at all. High Command stared at the recordings in stunned silence. Scientists scrambled to explain gravitational anomalies and reality distortions. Military analysts tried to understand how empty space could generate energy readings. Sir, one of the younger analysts said hesitantly, what if we're thinking about this wrong? Supreme Commander Korval, now personally overseeing the Earth situation, turned toward the speaker. Explain. What if the humans aren't using technology to defend themselves? What if there's something else entirely? Such as? I don't know, sir. But we've been assuming they're a primitive species with hidden weapons. What if they're not primitive at all? The suggestion was quietly dismissed, but it planted a seed of doubt. The 5th and 6th fleets were sent together, with strict orders to maintain constant communication and withdraw at the first sign of trouble. Both fleets lasted almost an hour before vanishing. Their final transmissions spoke of human ships that shouldn't be possible and weapons that violated known physics. The last message from Admiral Rextall of the 6th Fleet was particularly disturbing. Command, the human vessels are... They're not entirely in normal space. They phase in and out of our reality. Our weapons pass right through them, but theirs strike us with impossible force. They're using gravitational manipulation on a scale we've never seen. How does a primitive species develop this kind of technology? Command? I don't think they're primitive at all. I think we've made a terrible mistake in coming here. We're going to try emergency withdrawal, but they're blocking our hyperspace generators. They're not just defending themselves, they're toying with us. The transmission ended with what sounded like laughter in the background. Human laughter. By the time the 7th Fleet was assembled, the entire hegemony was in an uproar. Vassal species were openly questioning Kethvar authority. Some tributary worlds had stopped sending their required resources. 3 systems had declared independence and dared the weakened hegemony to stop them. The 7th Fleet was commanded by Admiral Dexcool, the hero of the Outer Rim, conqueror of the Vexari Empire. If anyone could succeed where 6 fleets had failed, it would be him. Dexcool lasted 2 hours and 17 minutes. His final transmission was the longest and most detailed yet. Command, this is Admiral Dexcool. We've engaged the human defensive fleet. I need to stress that everything we thought we knew about this species is wrong. Their ships move through space-time itself as if it were an ocean. They're manipulating gravity, electromagnetic fields, and what appears to be the fundamental forces of physics. Our most powerful weapons barely scratch their hulls, while their attacks tear our ships apart at the molecular level. But here's what disturbs me most, Command. They're not fighting like a desperate species defending their homeworld. They're fighting like teachers correcting unruly children. They announce their attacks before they make them. They give us chances to withdraw. They seem genuinely sad when we refuse to retreat. One of their ships just broadcast a message to us. A human female saying, "You don't have to die here. Please turn around and go home." They're offering us mercy, Command. The species we came to conquer is offering us mercy. I'm going to order a withdrawal. This isn't a battle we can win. This isn't a battle we should be fighting. There's something very wrong with our intelligence about humanity. They're not a primitive species that got lucky. There's something else entirely. Something that's been letting us think we were in control. The transmission continued for another hour, documenting impossible weapons and technology that seemed to operate outside known scientific principles. Then, like all the others, it cut to static. The 8th Fleet was the largest yet, 3,000 ships under Admiral Kexmore, the Hammer of Worlds. The entire hegemony military was now focused on the Earth problem. Other sectors were stripped of defenses to support the massive assault. Kexmore's fleet lasted almost 6 hours. His transmissions painted a picture of a battle that was less like warfare and more like a demonstration. Human ships that existed partially outside normal space-time. Weapons that targeted individual atoms and rearranged them into harmless gas. Defensive systems that made Kethvar attacks simply cease to exist. "They're not even trying to destroy us quickly," Kexmore reported. "They're taking us apart slowly, giving us every opportunity to surrender and withdraw. They keep broadcasting messages asking us to reconsider our aggression. They actually seem disappointed that we won't leave peacefully." "Command, I have to tell you something. This isn't a war. This is an extermination, but not the kind we're used to. They're not exterminating us out of hatred or fear. They're exterminating us because we refuse to stop attacking them. It's like putting down a mad animal. Necessary, regrettable, but unavoidable. His final message was barely a whisper. Command. I understand now. We never had a chance. We were never in control. They were humoring us. All of it, from the first ultimatum to now, they were giving us chances to walk away. 8 fleets, and they kept hoping we'd be smart enough to leave them alone. I think they're genuinely sorry this is happening. Static. 8 fleets. Nearly 10,000 ships, the entire might of the hegemony's finest commanders, gone without a trace. Earth continued to rotate peacefully in its orbit, its inhabitants apparently unaffected by the battles that had raged around their world. In the hegemony capital, emergency sessions ran day and night. The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. They had not been fighting a primitive species. They had been fighting something far beyond their understanding. And worse, that something had been trying to let them leave peacefully. The question now was whether the hegemony would be wise enough to take the hint, or foolish enough to send a 9th fleet. Chancellor Vexel looked around the council chamber at the faces of his fellow leaders. Fear, confusion, and wounded pride warred in their expressions. The 9th fleet will be different, he declared. We'll send everything. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier we have. If humanity wants a war, they'll get one they'll never forget. In the back of the chamber, a few of the older counselors exchanged worried glances. They were beginning to suspect that humanity had never wanted a war at all. And that was somehow the most terrifying thing of all. Supreme Admiral Kolvrath stood at the center of the greatest war room the Kethvar hegemony had ever constructed. Around him, holographic displays showed every ship, every weapon, every soldier the Empire could gather. Numbers that should have been impossible to comprehend filled the air in glowing columns of data. 10,437 warships, the largest fleet in galactic history. Admiral, came the voice of Fleet Coordinator Zaltek. The final squadron from the outer territories has arrived. The 9th fleet is complete. Kolvrath nodded slowly, his 4 eyes taking in the massive tactical display. Red dots representing Kethvar ships stretched across light years of space. Each dot represented hundreds or thousands of crew members. Each dot represented firepower that could level cities. And all of it was aimed at one small blue world that had somehow made 8 previous fleets simply vanish. Status report, he commanded. All ships are operational, sir. We have stripped defensive fleets from every sector of the hegemony. Conquered worlds are now defended only by orbital platforms and ground-based weapons. Every available vessel has been committed to this operation. The Admiral studied the numbers. In his 3 centuries of military service, he had never seen resources committed on this scale. The hegemony was betting everything on this single battle. What's the word from the territories? He asked. Zaltek's expression darkened. 17 systems have declared independence since the 8th fleet disappeared. The Vexari remnant has begun organizing resistance cells. 3 vassal species have stopped paying tribute entirely. And our response? We can't respond, sir. Every ship we have is here. Kolvrath understood the implications. The hegemony was collapsing from within while they focused on this one impossible world. But they had no choice now. 8 fleets destroyed meant they had to win this battle or face total dissolution of their empire. Analysis of the previous engagements? He asked, turning to his intelligence chief. Commander Hexnall activated a different display. Battle recordings played in the air above them, showing the final moments of the 8th fleet. Kethvar ships firing uselessly at human vessels that seem to exist only partially in normal space. The humans appear to have technology that operates outside known physics, Hexnall reported. Their ships can phase through attacks, manipulate gravity on a massive scale, and project weapons that disintegrate matter at the atomic level. How is that possible? We don't know, sir. Our best scientists suggest they may have discovered principles of physics we haven't encountered. Possibly ancient alien technology, or they may be more advanced than we initially believed. Kolvrath reviewed the intelligence reports for the 100th time. Something about the human responses bothered him. Their ships always announced themselves before attacking. They gave repeated warnings. They seemed genuinely reluctant to destroy Kethvar vessels. What about their behavior patterns? He asked. Curious, sir. In every engagement, human forces offered multiple opportunities for our fleets to withdraw. They broadcast messages asking our commanders to reconsider their aggression. Even during active combat, they seemed to prefer disabling our ships rather than destroying them outright. Primitive honor codes? Kolvrath suggested. Possibly. Many developing species have elaborate rules about warfare. They may feel compelled to offer mercy even to their enemies. The Admiral felt a slight sense of satisfaction. Honor codes were predictable. They could be exploited. If the humans felt bound by some primitive sense of fair play, that gave him an advantage. Show me their defensive capabilities again. The display changed to show Earth's orbital space. A handful of space stations, some small defensive platforms, and perhaps 50 small ships that barely qualified as military vessels. That's it? Kolvrath asked. That's everything we can detect, sir. Their defensive grid appears designed for asteroid deflection and minor piracy. Nothing that should pose a threat to a major military force. Yet 8 fleets are gone. Yes, sir. Kolvrath studied the innocent-looking blue world. Either the humans had hidden capabilities that defied detection, or they had somehow acquired technology from another source. Ancient ruins, perhaps. Or alliance with an unknown species. What do we know about human history? Very limited records, sir. They achieved faster-than-light travel only recently. Before that, they were confined to their single-world system. No evidence of contact with other species or access to advanced technology. Then how do you explain what happened to our fleets? Hexnall was quiet for a moment. Sir, there is one possibility we haven't fully considered. Which is? What if we're wrong about their technological development? What if they're not primitive at all? The suggestion hung in the air like a challenge. Kolvrath had built his entire career on the assumption that the Kethvar were the dominant military force in the galaxy. The idea that some unknown species could be more advanced was almost unthinkable. If they were truly advanced, he said slowly, why would they limit themselves to one world? Why not build an empire like ours? Perhaps they choose not to. Some species are naturally isolationist. Or perhaps, Kolvrath said, his voice taking on a harder edge, they want us to think they're more powerful than they actually are. Smoke and mirrors to make a few hidden weapons seem like overwhelming force. This interpretation felt more comfortable. The Admiral had seen species try to bluff their way out of conquest before. Usually it involved making a few ships seem like many, or hiding their population centers to make targeting difficult. Analysis of their communication patterns? He asked. Extremely polite, sir. Even when refusing our ultimatums, they used respectful language. When warning our fleets to withdraw, they said please and thank you. Most unusual behavior for a species under attack. Kolvrath smiled slightly. Politeness was another sign of weakness. Truly dangerous species didn't waste time with pleasantries when facing annihilation. They're stalling, he decided. Playing for time while they prepare whatever hidden defenses they have. Classic primitive behavior. He turned to address the full command staff. Officers, we're dealing with a species that has managed to hide their true capabilities from our scouts. They've used surprise and misdirection to destroy our previous fleets. But surprise only works once. Now we know they have advanced technology. Now we're prepared. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. This explanation made sense to commanders who had spent their lives conquering supposedly weaker species. Our strategy will be different from previous engagements, Kolvrath continued. We will not underestimate their defenses. We will not give them time to prepare, and we will not show them the same mercy they've shown our previous fleets. He activated the main tactical display. The Ninth Fleet will arrive in 3 waves. The first wave will probe their defenses and identify their hidden weapons. The second wave will neutralize those weapons. The third wave will complete the conquest. What about their requests for us to withdraw? Asked one of the younger commanders. Psychological warfare, Kolvrath replied firmly. They're trying to make us doubt ourselves, make us think they're more powerful than they are. It's a common tactic among desperate species. The explanation satisfied most of the room. It was easier to believe that humanity was clever but ultimately weak than to accept that 8 hegemony fleets had been destroyed by genuinely superior technology. Sir, Zaltek said, intelligence suggests the humans may have some kind of spatial manipulation technology. Should we prepare countermeasures? Whatever they have, it can't work against this many ships, Kolvrath declared. 10,000 vessels with combined firepower that could crack a planet. Even if their technology is more advanced than ours, there are limits to what any defensive system can handle. He was confident in the mathematics. No weapon, no matter how advanced, could target 10,000 ships simultaneously. No defense, no matter how clever, could protect against planet-killing levels of concentrated firepower. Deployment orders? Asked the fleet coordinator. Begin the operation. All ships to Earth system, maximum speed. We end this in one decisive battle. As the massive fleet began to move, Kolvrath felt the satisfaction of a plan coming together. The humans had gotten lucky against smaller forces. They had used surprise and superior technology to win battles against unprepared opponents. But luck ran out eventually. And no species, no matter how advanced, could stand against the full military might of the Kethvar hegemony. The ships began their journey toward Earth, leaving the rest of the hegemony virtually undefended. It was a massive gamble, but Kolvrath was certain it would pay off. The humans had shown mercy to previous fleets. That mercy was a weakness he intended to exploit. As the fleet entered hyperspace, long-range communications brought updates from across the Empire. More systems declaring independence, more vassal species refusing tribute, more signs that the hegemony's authority was crumbling. Sir, Hexnal reported privately, if this battle doesn't go well, we may not have an empire to return to. Kolvrath nodded grimly. Then we'd better make sure it goes well. But deep in his mind, a small doubt nagged at him. 8 fleets destroyed without a trace. Technology that seemed to violate physics itself. And through it all, the humans had remained polite, respectful, almost apologetic. What kind of species apologized while demonstrating the power to make entire fleets simply cease to exist? He pushed the doubt aside. The Ninth Fleet was different. Larger, better prepared, commanded by the best military mind the hegemony had ever produced. Whatever tricks the humans had used before wouldn't work against overwhelming force. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying the hopes and fears of an entire empire toward its appointment with a small blue world that had somehow become the most dangerous place in the galaxy. Behind them, the Kethvar Empire held its breath and waited to see if their greatest gamble would save them or destroy them completely. In the depths of space, 10,000 ships raced toward Earth, confident in their strength and certain of their victory. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The Ninth Fleet emerged from hyperspace like a metal storm. 10,437 ships materialized at the edge of Earth's solar system in perfect formation. The largest armada in galactic history stretched across space, in a display of power that could have intimidated entire star systems into surrender. Supreme Admiral Kolvrath stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical displays populate with friendly contacts. Ship after ship appeared on the screens until the numbers became almost meaningless. Destroyers, cruisers, battleships, dreadnoughts, and supercarriers filled the space around them. Fleet deployment complete. reported Fleet Coordinator Zaltek. "All ships are operational and standing by for orders." "Scan the system," Kolvrath commanded. "I want to know everything that's changed since the 8th Fleet's destruction." The sensor sweeps began immediately. Long-range scanners probed every asteroid, every moon, every piece of space debris larger than a pebble. If the humans had built new defenses or moved ships into position, the 9th Fleet would find them. "Report," the Admiral demanded after several minutes of intensive scanning. "Sir, the system appears unchanged from previous reconnaissance. Earth maintains its orbital stations and small defensive fleet. No new installations detected, no hidden ships or weapons platforms." Kolvrath studied the readings carefully. Everything looked exactly as it had before 8 fleets had vanished here. A peaceful world with minimal defenses, going about its business as if nothing had happened. "Life signs on Earth?" "Approximately 8 billion humans, sir. Normal population. Centers, normal activity patterns. No signs of military mobilization or evacuation." "They're not even preparing for battle," murmured one of the younger officers. The Admiral nodded grimly. Either the humans were supremely confident in their hidden defenses, or they were too primitive to understand what was coming for them. "Sir," the communications officer announced, "we're receiving a transmission from the inner system. Put it through." The main view screen activated, showing a simple communication room. A single human sat at a metal desk, wearing the same style of blue uniform that Ambassador Harrison had worn months before. This one was younger, a female with brown hair and calm eyes. "Greetings," she said, her voice carrying the same polite tone that had infuriated Kolvrath during previous communications. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Diplomatic Courtesy. We see that you've returned with additional ships." "I am Supreme Admiral Kolvrath of the Kethvar Hegemony," he replied. "You are looking at the largest fleet ever assembled, 10,000 ships with enough firepower to crack your world like an egg. I trust you're ready to reconsider your previous position." Captain Chen nodded thoughtfully. "I understand the significance of your fleet, Admiral. However, our position remains unchanged. We respectfully request that you leave our space immediately." Kolvrath felt his temper rising. Here they were again with the polite refusal, as if 10,000 warships were no different from the handful they'd faced before. "Captain, 8 fleets have come to this system. 8 fleets have been destroyed by whatever hidden weapons you possess. But this fleet is different. We're prepared for your tricks. We know you have advanced technology, and we've brought enough firepower to overwhelm any defense." "I'm sure you have," Chen agreed. "Your ships are quite impressive, but our request remains the same. Please leave our space while you still can." "While we still can?" Kolvrath's voice took on a dangerous edge. "Are you threatening the largest fleet in galactic history?" Chen's expression became genuinely sad. "No, Admiral. We're not threatening you. We're trying to save you." The Admiral stared at the screen in disbelief. Save them? From what? This single human, speaking from what appeared to be a tiny ship, was claiming she wanted to save his massive fleet? Save us from what exactly? "From what happened to the others," Chen replied simply. "Admiral, this is your final warning. Turn your ships around and leave. This is your last chance to walk away from this." Kolvrath's 4 hands clenched into fists. Final warning? Last chance? The sheer audacity of it was beyond comprehension. Listen carefully, human. You are facing the complete military might of the Kethvar hegemony. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier we possess is aimed at your world. Whatever defenses destroyed our previous fleets cannot possibly handle this level of force. Surrender, now, or watch your entire species burn." Chen was quiet for a long moment, her head bowed as if in thought or prayer. When she looked up again, her eyes were filled with what looked like genuine regret. "Admiral Kolvrath, we tried to do this the easy way. We asked you to leave. We warned you repeatedly. We even let your previous fleets see some of our capabilities, hoping you'd understand and choose to withdraw. And now, Now you've forced our hand. Chen leaned forward slightly. Admiral, you have 1 minute to begin withdrawal procedures. After that, we will have no choice but to treat your presence here as an act of war. Kolvrath cut the transmission with a violent gesture. Around him, the bridge crew exchanged glances of amazement and anger. Sir, Zaltek said carefully, your orders? All ships, attack formation. Target their orbital installations first, then the planet's major cities. Show them what happens to species that threaten the hegemony. The massive fleet began to move toward Earth. 10,000 ships advancing in perfect formation, weapons charging, shields at maximum power. It was a sight that had terrified entire sectors of the galaxy. Sir, the sensor officer called out, I'm detecting a single ship moving to intercept us. One ship? Yes, sir. Small vessel appears to be the same one that transmitted to us. Designation Diplomatic Courtesy. Kolvrath looked at the tactical display. A tiny dot was moving away from Earth toward his enormous fleet. One ship against 10,000. Sir, the human vessel is hailing us again. Ignore it. All ships, prepare to fire on my command. The single human ship took position directly between the Kethvar fleet and Earth. At this distance, it looked like a mote of dust, facing a metal hurricane. Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. What are they saying? The same message, repeating, This is your final warning. Please leave our space immediately. Kolvrath laughed, a sound like grinding stone. One ship. They sent one ship. To stop us. Should we target it specifically, sir? No. When we open fire on Earth, it will be destroyed along with everything else. The Admiral activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Kolvrath. You are about to witness the end of human resistance. Open fire on my mark. 10,000 ships armed their weapons simultaneously. The energy buildup was so massive that it created gravitational distortions visible on long-range sensors. Target locked on planetary defensive installations. All ships report ready to fire. Mark, 10,000 ships fired at once. The combined energy release was equivalent to a small star-going nova. Beams and projectiles capable of destroying continents lanced toward Earth at nearly the speed of light. For a moment, it looked like the most devastating attack in Galactic. History was about to reach its target. Then reality broke. Space around Earth twisted and folded like fabric in a wind. The devastating barrage simply stopped. Not deflected, not absorbed. Stopped. The energy beams and kinetic projectiles hung motionless in space as if frozen in time. What? Kolvrath began. The space around the human ship began to shimmer. Not with heat or energy, but with something far more fundamental. It was as if the laws of physics themselves were becoming fluid. Sir, I'm reading massive gravitational distortions throughout the system, energy levels that shouldn't be possible. It's like space-time itself is being manipulated. More ships began to appear around Earth, not emerging from hyperspace, not decloaking, simply materializing as if they had always been there. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of vessels that defied every rule of naval architecture. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Ships that seemed to be built from crystallized light, vessels that existed partially in normal space and partially somewhere else entirely. Their hulls reflected starlight in patterns that hurt to look at directly. How many ships are we looking at? Kolvrath demanded. I can't get an accurate count, sir. They're not entirely in our dimension. Sensors are reading anywhere from 3,000 to 30,000 vessels, depending on which detection method we use. The human voice came across all communication channels simultaneously, somehow bypassing their communication systems entirely. Admiral Kolvrath, this is Captain Chen. You were warned. You were given every opportunity to leave peacefully. Now, you will see why this system has been marked as forbidden for so long. Forbidden, Kolvrath whispered. The frozen attack that had been aimed at Earth suddenly reversed direction. 10,000 devastating energy beams and projectiles turned around in space and began racing back toward the Kethvar fleet. "Evasive maneuvers!" the admiral shouted. "All ships, scatter formation!" But it was too late. The returned fire struck the Kethvar fleet with perfect accuracy. Ships that had fired plasma beams found themselves struck by their own weapons. Vessels that had launched kinetic projectiles were destroyed by their own missiles. In the space of 30 seconds, a quarter of the Ninth Fleet simply ceased to exist. "Return fire!" Kolvrath ordered desperately. "All remaining ships, target the human vessels!" The surviving Kethvar ships opened fire on the strange human fleet. Their weapons struck the crystalline ships and simply passed through them as if they weren't there. "Sir, our weapons are having no effect. The human ships appear to be shifting in and out of normal space-time." Meanwhile, the human vessels began their own attack. But these weren't weapons in any sense that Kolvrath understood. Beams of light that seemed to analyze Kethvar ships down to the molecular level before gently disassembling them atom by atom. Fields of force that reached inside enemy vessels and simply turned off their power cores. Weapons that targeted individual crew members and transported them safely away before destroying the empty ships. "They're not trying to kill us," one of the officers reported in amazement. "They're removing our crews before destroying our ships." It was true. Throughout the fleet, Kethvar personnel were disappearing in flashes of light, only to reappear on designated recovery vessels that the humans had somehow provided. The message was clear. They could have killed everyone instantly, but they chose not to. "Sir, we've lost 60% of the fleet. Remaining ships are requesting permission to withdraw." Kolvrath stared at the tactical display in growing horror. His mighty fleet was being systematically dismantled by an enemy that seemed to operate outside the laws of physics itself. "Sir," the communications officer said quietly, "Captain Chen is hailing us again." "Put her through." The human appeared on screen, looking as calm and polite as ever. Behind her, the battle continued, but she seemed completely unaffected by the destruction of the largest fleet in galactic history. "Admiral, you still have about 4,000 ships left. We can continue this demonstration, or you can order your remaining vessels to withdraw. The choice is yours." "How?" Kolvrath whispered. "How is this possible?" Chen's expression became gentle, almost pitying. "Admiral, your species is very young. You've built an empire based on the assumption that might makes right, that the strongest should rule. It's a natural phase for developing civilizations. What are you saying?" "We're saying that there are older ways of looking at the universe, powers and principles that your science hasn't discovered yet. We're saying that strength isn't always about who has the biggest guns." Around them, more Kethvar ships were being carefully dismantled. Their crews rescued, their weapons neutralized, their vessels reduced to component atoms that drifted harmlessly in space. "Who are you?" Kolvrath asked. "We're humans," Chen replied simply. "We're your neighbors, and we really wished you had just left us alone." The admiral looked at his remaining fleet, then at the impossible human ships that seemed to dance between dimensions. The mathematics were clear. He could lose the rest of his ships here, or he could retreat and try to make sense of what he had witnessed. "All ships," he said quietly. "Prepare for emergency withdrawal." "Thank you, Admiral," Chen said. "We're sorry it had to come to this." As the surviving Kethvar ships began their escape to hyperspace, Kolvrath took one last look at Earth. The small blue world continued its peaceful rotation, utterly unchanged by the battle that had just destroyed the largest fleet in galactic history. In the space of 1 hour, the Kethvar hegemony had ceased to be a major galactic power, and the humans had done it while saying please and thank you. The retreat to hyperspace felt like fleeing from a nightmare into a universe that no longer made sense. Behind them, Earth grew smaller and smaller, taking with it everything Kolvrath thought he knew about power, warfare, and the natural order of things. The Ninth Fleet had found Earth, and Earth had sent them home with a lesson they would never forget. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so quiet. Representatives from 300 species sat in stunned silence, watching the holographic recordings that Supreme Admiral Kolvroth had brought back from Earth. The impossible battle played out before them in perfect detail. 10,000 ships reduced to scrap and memory in the space of a single hour. "This footage is authentic?" asked Councillor Vexani of the Thessarian Union. "Verified by 17 independent analysis teams," replied the Kethvar delegation's lead scientist. "Every frame has been examined for tampering or falsification. These events happened exactly as recorded. The recording showed human ships that seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time. Weapons that operated on principles unknown to galactic science. Technology that made the hegemony's most advanced systems look like primitive tools." "How long has humanity possessed this level of technology?" asked another counselor. "We don't." "No," Admiral Kolvroth admitted from his position at the witness stand. His once proud military bearing had been replaced by something approaching humility. "Our intelligence suggested they were a young species with primitive technology. Obviously, our intelligence was wrong." "Completely wrong," muttered Counselor Hextall of the Zephyrian Republic. "No one develops technology like this overnight. If humans have these capabilities, they've had them for a very long time." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The implications were staggering. If humanity had possessed this level of power all along, why had they hidden it? Why had they allowed themselves to appear weak and isolated? "There's something else," Kolvroth continued. "During the battle, the human commander made references to Earth being marked as forbidden, and suggested that their system had been off-limits for much longer than we realized." "Forbidden by whom?" demanded Councillor Yexmore of the Draconian Imperium. "That's what we need to find out." The council erupted into discussion. Species representatives argued among themselves, trying to understand what they had witnessed. Some demanded immediate action against the human threat. Others urged caution, pointing out that humanity had shown remarkable restraint during the battles. "Order!" called Council President Nexarel, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We will hear from our Historical Research Division." An elderly Vexari shuffled forward, carrying a data tablet that looked older than most civilizations. Professor Loxon had spent his entire career studying galactic history, focusing on the ancient periods that most species preferred to forget. "Honored counselors," he began in a voice cracked with age, "I have been reviewing our oldest star charts and historical records. I believe I may have found something relevant to the current situation." He activated his data tablet, and new holographic displays appeared in the chamber. Ancient star maps, thousands of years old, filled the air above the assembled representatives. These charts date back to the earliest period of galactic exploration, when our ancestors first began mapping the stars. "Notice anything unusual about the Sol system?" The counselors leaned forward, studying the archaic symbols and notations. There, clear as starlight, was a marking around Earth's system that none of them had seen on modern charts. "What does it mean?" asked President Nexaral. "Roughly translated from Old Galactic, it means Sacred Guardian System. Do not approach under any circumstances." The chamber fell silent again. Sacred Guardian System. The implications of those words hung heavy in the air. Guardian of what? Someone whispered. Professor Loxon consulted his ancient records. "That's where it gets interesting. According to these documents, Sol's system was designated as a sanctuary world by something called the First Civilization." "I've never heard of any first civilization," declared Councillor Vexani. "That's because they deliberately erased themselves from galactic memory," the professor explained. "But traces remain in the oldest archives, fragments of records that survived the Great Forgetting." More ancient documents appeared in the holographic display, text in languages so old that few scholars could even attempt translation. What I've pieced together suggests that millions of years ago, there was a civilization that achieved technological capabilities beyond anything we can imagine. They could manipulate space and time, control fundamental forces, even create or destroy matter at will. What happened to them? They realized they had become too powerful for the galaxy's good. Their technology was so advanced that it posed an existential threat to all other life. So they made a choice. Professor Loxon activated another display showing what appeared to be a timeline of galactic history with a massive gap in the middle. They voluntarily regressed themselves, gave up their technology, scattered their knowledge, and retreated to isolated worlds where they could live simple lives without threatening the rest of the galaxy. And you think humans are descendants of this first civilization? The evidence suggests it. Sol System was marked as a guardian sanctuary. The star charts show it as a place where the Watchers maintained their vigil. And look at this. A new document appeared, covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched. This is from the deepest archives of the Old Republic. It describes the Watchers as beings who chose to forget their power so that others might learn wisdom. They were tasked with monitoring the galaxy and intervening only if younger species became too dangerous to themselves or others. The implications hit the chamber like a physical blow. If humanity were descendants of this first civilization, if they had been watching and waiting all this time— The politeness, Admiral Colvrath said suddenly. They kept saying, please, and thank you. They kept trying to give us chances to leave peacefully. Because they didn't want to hurt you, Professor Loxon explained. They've spent millions of years trying to avoid using their true capabilities. The fact that they revealed them at all suggests you pushed them past their limits of patience. But why now? Asked President Nexral. If they've been hidden for millions of years, why reveal themselves now? The professor's expression grew grave. Because the Kethvar hegemony was becoming exactly the kind of threat the Watchers were meant to stop, an aggressive empire seeking to conquer the entire galaxy. They probably hoped you would learn wisdom on your own. But when you didn't, they had to step in, Colvrath finished. The question now, said Counselor Hextal, is what happens next? If humans have technology that advanced, if they've been watching us all along, what are their intentions for the rest of the galaxy? Before anyone could answer, the chamber's communication system activated. A calm, familiar voice filled the air. Council President Nexral, this is Ambassador Harrison of the United Earth Government. We request permission to address the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted in chaos. Harrison was the same human who had refused the hegemony's ultimatum months ago. Representatives shouted questions and demands, but President Nexral called for order. Permission granted, Ambassador. Please proceed to the central podium. What happened next defied every security protocol the Council had ever established. Ambassador Harrison simply appeared in the chamber, materializing out of empty air as if he had always been there. No transporters, no energy signatures, no indication of how he had traveled from Earth to the Council chambers. He looked exactly as he had during the original negotiations, calm, polite, and slightly sad. He wore the same simple blue uniform, carried no weapons, and showed no signs of concern, despite being surrounded by representatives of species that might consider him an enemy. Honored counselors, he began, I apologize for the dramatic entrance. We felt it was important to address the questions that have undoubtedly arisen following recent events. Questions? Sputtered Counselor Vexani. You've just demonstrated technology that makes the rest of us look like primitives playing with sticks. Harrison nodded. Yes, and we're sorry about that. We had hoped to avoid any such demonstration indefinitely. Who are you? Demanded President Nexral. What is humanity's true nature? The ambassador was quiet for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of millennia. We are exactly what we've always said we are. We are humans. We live on Earth. We want to be left alone to pursue our own development in peace. But the technology, the power you displayed, is our inheritance, Harrison said simply. Long ago, our ancestors made choices that nearly destroyed the galaxy. They learned that there are some powers too dangerous to wield, some knowledge too terrible to possess, so they chose a different path. The path of the Watchers, Professor Loxon whispered. Harrison looked surprised that anyone remembered the old terms. Yes, the path of voluntary restraint. The choice to use power only when absolutely necessary to protect others from making the same mistakes we once made. And the HFY hegemony was making those mistakes? Asked Admiral Kolovrath. You were heading down the same path that led us to near extinction millions of years ago. Conquest for its own sake, the belief that might makes right, the assumption that the strong should rule the weak. Harrison's expression grew even sadder. We've seen this pattern before. Species develop weapons, then use those weapons to build empires, then push their technology further to maintain those empires. Eventually, they develop capabilities that threaten all life in the galaxy. So you stopped us. We tried to warn you. We gave you every possible chance to choose a different path. We would have preferred that you learn wisdom on your own. And now? Asked President Nexral. Harrison looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from dozens of species. Now we have to be more direct about maintaining galactic stability. We can no longer remain hidden while aggressive empires threaten the peace. What does that mean for the rest of us? Demanded Counselor Hextall. It means we will be taking a more active role in galactic affairs, not as conquerors or rulers, but as guardians. We will help species develop safely, prevent conflicts from escalating beyond reason, and ensure that no one civilization becomes powerful enough to threaten all the others. The chamber was silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't just revealing itself as a hidden power. It was announcing that it would now be actively managing galactic civilization. You're saying you're going to rule us? Accused Counselor Vexani. No, Harrison replied firmly. We're saying we're going to watch over you, the same way we've been doing for millions of years, just more openly now. And if we refuse your protection? Harrison's smile was gentle, but somehow terrible. Counselor, you've seen what happens to those who choose the path of conquest and aggression. The HFY hegemony learned that lesson recently. We hope others will choose wisdom instead. President Nexral stood slowly. Ambassador Harrison, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I must ask, what are humanity's specific intentions regarding galactic governance? We intend to do what we've always done, Harrison replied. Maintain peace, prevent unnecessary conflicts, and help younger species avoid the mistakes that nearly destroyed us. We will not impose governments or dictate policies. We will simply ensure that no one civilization becomes a threat to galactic stability. And our current governments, our current borders, our current way of life will continue exactly as they have, provided they don't threaten the peace. We're not interested in ruling anyone. We're interested in making sure everyone has the chance to grow and develop safely. Admiral Kolovrath stood up in the witness section. What about the hegemony? What's left of it? Harrison turned toward the Admiral with something approaching sympathy. The HFY people will be fine, Admiral. Your empire is ended, but your species will survive and hopefully learn from this experience. We'll be providing assistance to help your world's transition to more peaceful governance. You're dismantling our entire civilization. We're giving your civilization a chance to become something better than an empire built on conquest and fear. The ambassador looked around. The chamber one final time. Honored counselors, humanity returns to the galactic community not as conquerors, but as the guardians we have always been. We hope this new era will be one of unprecedented peace and cooperation. He began to fade, becoming translucent as he prepared to leave the same way he had arrived. Wait, called President Nexral. Will we see you again? Harrison smiled. Oh, yes. We'll be much more visible from now on. After all, it's hard to be proper guardians while hiding in the shadows. He vanished, leaving behind a chamber full of representatives trying to comprehend the new reality of their galaxy. Outside the council chambers, on worlds throughout the galaxy, the news spread rapidly. Humanity had revealed itself as the hidden power that had been shaping galactic history for millions of years. The age of conquest and empire was ending. The age of the Guardians had begun. And somewhere in the Sol system, on a small blue world, that had seemed so helpless just days before, humanity quietly returned to its long vigil over the galaxy they had chosen to protect rather than rule. The stars looked different now. Not cold and distant, but warm and watched over. Finally, after millions of years of hiding, Earth's children had come home to the galaxy they had never really left.
The endless black of space stretched out before Captain Jack Harlow as he stared through the main viewport of the salvage vessel Prospector. Chunks of space debris drifted by, glinting in the distant starlight. This uncharted sector was supposed to be empty, just floating junk and dust. But his scanner had picked up something big, something metal, something old. "You sure about this, Captain?" Lisa asked, her fingers dancing over the navigation controls. Her short red hair caught the blue glow of the console lights. "We're way off our normal route." Jack nodded, his weathered face set with determination. "The scanner doesn't lie. Something's out there. Something big. Better be worth the fuel," grumbled Tom from the engineering station. The old mechanic had been with Jack for 15 years and still complained about every detour. The Prospector pushed forward through the debris field, its lights cutting through the darkness. Then suddenly they saw it. "Holy stars," whispered Lisa. Floating silently in the void was a massive warship. Its dark hull was scarred with blast marks. Parts of it were torn open, showing the ship's insides. But despite the damage, it was clearly intact. And it was huge, at least 5 times bigger than the Prospector. "Is that human design?" Tom asked, leaning forward. Jack checked the database. "It's the UES Vengeance, a warship from the First Contact War." His voice dropped to a whisper. "It was reported destroyed over 200 years ago." The crew fell silent. Everyone knew about the First Contact War. How humanity had reached for the stars, only to meet the Krell. An alien empire that saw humans as a threat. The war had merely wiped out Earth. Humans now lived on just a few colony worlds, always under the shadow of Krell rule. "We should call this in," Lisa said finally, reaching for the comm system. Jack caught her wrist. "To who?" "The Krell. So they can take it away." He shook his head. "This is the find of a lifetime. We're checking it out first." Lisa frowned. "Jack, that's a military vessel. There could be automated defenses, traps." "After 200 years. Doubtful," Jack replied. "Besides, salvage law is clear. Finder's rights." An hour later, Jack, Lisa, and Tom floated through the empty corridors of the Vengeance, their magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor when they chose to use them. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing a ship frozen in time. "Look at this," Tom said, shining his light on a wall covered in blast marks. "They fought hard." Jack nodded grimly. The signs of battle were everywhere. Makeshift barricades, empty weapon casings, and darker stains that he tried not to think about. "The ship's huge," Lisa noted, checking her scanner. "Power readings are minimal. But wait, there's something active in the center of the ship. Very low energy signature." They followed the signal through winding corridors until they reached a sealed door marked AI Core. "Authorized DP Horizontal only." "Can we get in?" Jack asked. Tom examined the door. "No power to the lock. We'll have to force it." It took all 3 of them to push the heavy door open. Inside, they found a room filled with what looked like outdated computer equipment. In the center was a glowing blue cube, pulsing weakly. "That's the ship's AI core," Lisa said, scanning it. Somehow it's still running on emergency power after all this time. Jack approached the cube. Can we talk to it? Lisa shook her head. Not enough power. It's barely maintaining itself. Tom reached into his pack and pulled out a portable power cell. This might help. It's not much. But do it, Jack ordered. Lisa grabbed his arm. Jack, think about this. Activating an unknown military AI. We have no idea what its last orders were, what protocols it's following. Jack looked around the dead ship, feeling the weight of its history. This is our history, Lisa. Human history. Don't you want to know what happened here? Before she could answer, Tom connected the power cell to the AI core. The blue glow brightened, and the cube began to hum. A voice, crackling and distorted, filled the room. Systems. Rebooting. Emergency power detected. Activating limited functions. A hologram flickered to life above the cube. The image of a man in an old Earth military uniform, his features sharp and serious. I am Victor, artificial intelligence of the United Earth ship Vengeance. Identify yourselves. Jack stepped forward. Captain Jack Harlow of the salvage vessel Prospector. This is my first officer, Lisa, and my engineer, Tom. The hologram seemed to study them. Date verification required. It's March 2, 2425, Lisa said. The hologram flickered. Processing. 203 years since my last active status. Situation assessment required. Is Earth? Did Earth survive? The three humans exchanged glances. Earth survived, Jack said carefully. But it's not what it was. The Krell won the war. Humans live on a few colony worlds now, under Krell rule. Victor's hologram showed no emotion, but the blue light of the cube pulsed more quickly. Unacceptable outcome. The Vengeance was created to prevent this very scenario. The AI paused. Captain Harlow, this vessel contains technologies that were experimental even during the war. Weapons systems, defensive capabilities, and propulsion methods that were never deployed elsewhere. Jack felt his heart rate increase. Are you saying this ship still works? With repairs, yes. I have maintained critical systems in low-power hibernation, following my final directive. Survive and protect humanity's legacy. Suddenly, alarms blared through the room. Victor's hologram looked up sharply. Warning. Unknown vessel approaching. Configuration matches Krell scout ship. Lisa's scanner beeped urgently. He's right. Krell signatures. They must have detected our power-up. We need to go. Now, Tom said, already heading for the door. Jack hesitated, looking at the AI core. Victor. The hologram nodded. You must leave. The Vengeance is not ready for combat. But take this. A small data port opened on the cube. Connect your data tablet. I will download a compressed copy of myself. Humanity must know what happened here. As the alarms grew louder, Jack quickly connected his tablet. Data streamed into it for a few seconds, then stopped. Go, Victor said. Return when you can. The Vengeance awaits its crew. The three humans raced back through the corridors toward their ship. Just as they reached the airlock, they saw the Krell scout ship approaching through the viewport. They haven't spotted us yet, Lisa said. If we power down and drift out on minimal thrusters. Do it, Jack ordered. As the Prospector silently slipped away from the ancient warship, Jack looked down at his tablet. The screen glowed with a simple message. Humanity's last hope restored. Awaiting instructions. The hunt had begun, and the forgotten ship would soon become the deadliest in the universe. 3 days after their narrow escape from the Krell scout ship, Jack sat in his small apartment on Nova Harbor. The largest remaining human settlement wasn't much to look at, just a cluster of buildings under a protective dome on a rocky moon. But it was home to almost 50,000 humans, living out their lives under the watchful eyes of their Krell rulers. Jack stared at his data tablet, which sat on his cluttered desk. He hadn't dared connect it to any network since returning. The compressed AI named Victor might be the most valuable and dangerous thing on Nova Harbor. A soft knock on his door made him jump. "It's me," Lisa called quietly. Jack let her in, checking the hallway before closing the door. "Any news?" Lisa nodded, her face grim. 3 Krell enforcers were asking questions at the docks today, showing pictures of the prospector. They know something. How? We didn't file a report. We didn't tell anyone. The scout ship must have spotted us after all. Lisa sat heavily on Jack's worn couch. Tom says we should wipe the tablet and forget we ever found that ship. Jack shook his head. We can't. This is too important. He picked up the tablet. We need to know what's on here. Jack, be reasonable. That's a military AI from a warship. Connecting it to any system is asking for trouble. Then we'll be careful. Jack pulled an old computer terminal from his closet. This is a standalone system, not connected to any network. We can see what Victor has to say without risking anything. Lisa didn't look convinced, but she helped Jack set up the terminal. When everything was ready, Jack connected the tablet. The screen flickered, then filled with scrolling data. After a moment, a simplified version of Victor's hologram appeared. Captain Harlow, you have successfully extracted me from the Vengeance. Thank you. Jack leaned forward. Victor, what exactly are you? What is the Vengeance? The hologram seemed to consider this. I am a 5th-generation military artificial intelligence created for the UES Vengeance, Earth's final weapon in the First Contact War. I was designed to learn, adapt, and preserve humanity's knowledge and technology. And the Vengeance? Lisa asked. The most advanced warship ever built by human hands, constructed in secret using reverse-engineered Krell technology, combined with human innovations. Victor's hologram paused. I need to understand the current situation. How did the war end? What is humanity's status? Jack and Lisa exchanged looks. Then Jack explained how, according to history, humans had started the war through their aggression. How the Krell had mercifully spared Earth, but restricted humans to a handful of colonies under strict control. How humanity had been contained for the greater good. Victor's hologram flickered with what almost looked like anger. Lies. All lies. The AI's voice became sharper. The First Contact War began when human scientists discovered a fatal flaw in Krell faster-than-light drive technology. A flaw that would eventually lead to catastrophic failures across their fleet. What? Jack felt cold suddenly. That's not what we've been taught. When humanity attempted to share this information, the Krell leadership feared losing their technological advantage. They struck first, destroying Earth's major cities and research centers. Victor's image stabilized. The Vengeance was our answer. A ship with technology decades ahead of anything else humans had built. Lisa shook her head in disbelief. If that's true, why did we lose? The ship was never fully deployed. During its maiden voyage, a Krell strike team managed to board. In the ensuing battle, most of the crew was killed. The captain activated emergency protocols before dying. I was instructed to protect the ship and wait for rescue. Victor's voice softened. A rescue that never came. Until now. Jack sat back, his mind racing. The Krell lied about everything. They've been controlling us based on a false history, and they might still need human help, Victor added. If my calculations were correct, the flaw in their FTL drive would begin to manifest serious problems approximately 200 years after our initial discovery. Which would be right about now, Lisa whispered. A loud bang on the apartment door made them all freeze. Captain Jack Harlow. A mechanical voice called from outside. By order of the Krell Imperium, open this door immediately. Jack quickly disconnected the tablet from the terminal. Is there anything else on the prospector that could connect us to the Vengeance? Lisa shook her head. Nothing they could find easily. The banging continued. Final warning. Open or we breach. Jack grabbed a bag and stuffed the tablet inside. We need to get back to the ship, back to the Vengeance. How? The prospector is probably being watched. Jack smiled grimly. Then we'll have to steal a different ship." The door exploded inward. 3 Krell enforcers stood in the hallway, their scaled bodies covered in sleek armor, weapons raised. They were tall, reptilian, with 4 arms and yellow eyes that locked onto the humans. "Surrender for questioning," the lead Krell ordered. Jack glanced at the window behind him. They were only on the 2nd floor. "Not today," he said, grabbing Lisa's hand. They crashed through the window together, landing hard on a lower roof. Alarms blared as they ran, ducking through the narrow alleys of Nova Harbor. The Krell would be right behind them. "Tom's place is closest," Lisa panted as they ran. "No," Jack replied. "The docks. We need to move now." They changed direction, heading for the smaller emergency docks where courier ships were kept ready for quick missions. "You have a plan?" Lisa asked as they hid behind a cargo container, watching the dock security. Jack patted his bag with the tablet inside. "Victor and I do." The AI's voice came from the tablet. "The courier ship in Bay 3 has minimal security. Its systems are basic enough that I can interface with them." "And then what?" Lisa asked. "The Vengeance is days away even at full speed." "And the Krell will follow us," Jack added. Victor's voice remained calm. "The Vengeance has technologies you cannot imagine, Captain Harlow. But I need to be restored to its systems. With your help, we can awaken the deadliest ship in the universe." A patrol of Krell soldiers marched past their hiding spot. When they were gone, Jack looked at Lisa. "Are you with me?" She hesitated only a moment. "This is probably suicide." "Probably," Jack agreed. "Then let's go steal a ship." Using Victor's guidance, they managed to reach Bay 3 without being spotted. The courier ship was small but fast, designed for carrying important messages between colonies. As Jack worked on the door controls, Lisa kept watch. "Jack, about what Victor said. If it's true, then everything we know is a lie," Jack finished. "And we might be the only ones who can do something about it." The door slid open. They slipped inside the ship and made their way to the cockpit. Jack connected the tablet to the ship's computer. "Initiating override," Victor announced. The ship's systems came to life under the AI's control. As the engines began to hum, alarms sounded across the dock. They had been discovered. "Hang on," Jack said, taking the controls as Victor released them to him. "This is going to be close." The small ship shot out of the bay, narrowly missing a security barrier. Behind them, Nova Harbor quickly grew smaller. "Course set for the Vengeance," Victor reported. "Estimated arrival in 36 hours. Jack looked at Lisa, determination in his eyes. "Let's go wake up the deadliest ship in the universe." Little did they know that Admiral Dorax, the most feared Krell commander, had already received word of their escape, and he understood exactly what was at stake. The hunt had begun. The small courier ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a shudder. Through the viewport, Jack and Lisa could see the endless field of space debris, and beyond it, the massive shape of the UES Vengeance. But they weren't alone. "Krell cruiser detected," Victor announced from the tablet. "They arrived before us." Jack zoomed in on the viewing screen. A sleek, predatory-looking ship hovered near the ancient human warship. It was at least 10 times the size of their stolen courier vessel. "They're trying to board the Vengeance," Lisa said, pointing to small shuttlecraft moving between the cruiser and the old warship. Jack's hands tightened on the controls. "We can't fight that cruiser." "No," Victor agreed, "but we can avoid detection." The Krell rely heavily on energy signatures for tracking. Reduce power to minimal life support and drift on momentum. "We'll be sitting ducks," Lisa protested. "The Krell are focused on the Vengeance," Victor explained. "Their sensors are calibrated for large power sources, not a nearly dead ship." Jack nodded and powered down almost everything. The courier ship grew cold quickly as they drifted toward the debris field, using only tiny bursts from the maneuvering thrusters. "We need to reach Airlock 7, Victor instructed. "It connects to a maintenance tunnel the Krell are unlikely to have discovered." For a tense hour, they floated through the debris, watching the Krell shuttles come and go. Finally, they reached the underside of the massive warship. There, Lisa whispered, pointing to a barely visible hatch. Jack carefully aligned their ship and extended the docking tube. It connected with a soft thud that seemed too loud in the quiet ship. "Will the airlock even work after all this time?" Lisa asked. "Manual override should function," Victor replied. The Vengeance was designed to operate even with significant damage. Jack grabbed his toolkit and the tablet containing Victor. "Let's find out." It took 20 minutes of careful work in their spacesuits to get the old airlock functioning. When the inner door finally creaked open, they slipped inside a dark, narrow tunnel. "Where are the Krell boarding parties?" Jack asked, his helmet light cutting through the darkness. "Main command deck and engine room, based on their movement patterns," Victor replied. "We need to reach the AI core. From there, I can regain control of the ship's systems." They moved quietly through the maintenance tunnel, which eventually opened into a larger corridor. The ship seemed dead around them, but occasionally they heard distant sounds, metallic clangs, voices, movement. "The Krell are still searching the ship," Lisa whispered. As they approached the AI core room, Jack held up his hand, stopping them. Ahead, 2 Krell soldiers stood guard outside the door. "They found it," he whispered. Lisa pulled out her small stun pistol, the only weapon they had brought. 2 shots, maybe 3 before it's drained. Jack looked around, thinking fast. "We don't need to fight them. Look." He pointed to a control panel on the wall. "Environmental controls." Understanding dawned on Lisa's face. They backtracked to the panel. Jack connected Victor's tablet to it. "Can you control this section's gravity?" he asked the AI. "Affirmative. The backup systems respond to my commands." A moment later, warning lights flashed in the corridor ahead. The 2 Krell guards looked up in confusion just as the gravity reversed. They were slammed against the ceiling, their weapons floating away uselessly. "Now," Jack urged, and they pushed forward, floating easily in their magnetic boots while the Krell struggled against the reverse gravity. They reached the AI core room and sealed the door behind them. Inside, the blue cube glowed brighter than before. The Krell had supplied it with more power for their investigation. "Connect me to the main system," Victor instructed. Jack placed the tablet against the cube's interface. Data began streaming between them, the lights in the room flickering as Victor transferred back into the ship's systems. A hologram appeared above the cube, more detailed than before. "Transfer complete. I am home." Victor's voice now came from the ship's speakers rather than the tablet. "What now?" Lisa asked, glancing nervously at the door. "The Krell cruiser is still out there, and there are boarding parties all over the ship." "Now," Victor said, "we wake the Vengeance." Lights began coming on throughout the room. A low hum built around them as systems long dormant stirred to life. Emergency power activated. Primary weapons offline. Secondary weapons partially functional. Shields minimal capacity. Engines startup sequence initiated. Jack felt the deck vibrate beneath his feet. "Victor, the Krell will know the ship is powering up." Indeed, they are already returning to their cruiser. The hologram shifted to show internal sensors. Krell soldiers were rushing back toward their shuttlecraft. "We have approximately 7 minutes before they can bring weapons to bear. Can this ship fight back?" Lisa asked. "After 200 years. Not at full capacity," Victor admitted. "But the Vengeance has one advantage. Me." An alarm sounded, and a new section of the room opened up. Inside was a chair surrounded by control interfaces, a captain's command station. "Jack Harlow," Victor said formally. "Biometric scans show you share genetic markers with Captain Thomas Harlow, this vessel's original commander and your ancestor. The ship's systems will respond best to your commands." Jack stared at the chair. "I'm no warship captain." "You don't need to be," Victor replied. "I can handle most functions. I need you for authentication and strategic decisions. The ship shuddered as the Krell cruiser fired a warning shot. Time to decide, Captain, Lisa said, a grim smile on her face. Jack took a deep breath and sat in the command chair. Displays lit up around him, responding to his presence. He felt the ship connecting to him somehow, its systems extending his awareness. Victor, what weapons do we have? Adaptive defense grid at 30%. Main cannons need another hour to charge, but we have railguns and countermeasures. The Krell cruiser fired again, this time a full attack. The Vengeance rocked under the impact. Shields holding at minimal capacity, Victor reported. Their weapons are powerful, but predictable. Jack gripped the arms of the chair. Can we run? Engines at 40%. Enough for short-range maneuvers, not enough for escape, Victor replied. We must fight. Then let's show them what this forgotten ship can do, Jack said, newfound determination in his voice. Target their weapons first. The Vengeance shuddered as ancient weapons came online. Railguns deployed from hidden compartments in the hull, targeting the cruiser's main weapon banks with surprising accuracy. How are you hitting them so precisely? Lisa asked, watching the tactical display in amazement. The Vengeance was designed to learn, Victor explained. Every hit we take teaches our targeting systems about their defenses. Every shot they fire reveals their weapon signatures. The Krell cruiser, caught off guard by the sudden counterattack, tried to back away. But the Vengeance was already adapting, predicting its movements. Their engines are vulnerable, Victor announced. Firing solution ready. Take the shot, Jack ordered. The railguns fired in perfect sequence. On the display, they watched as the energy blasts tore through the cruiser's engine section. Secondary explosions rippled across the Krell ship. Direct hit, Victor reported. Their main power is failing. The Krell cruiser drifted, its weapons silent, emergency lights blinking across its hull. Did we win? Lisa asked in disbelief. For now, Jack said, rising from the command chair. But they'll send more ships once they realize what happened. Victor's hologram nodded. The resurrection of the Vengeance is only beginning, Captain. Many systems remain offline. But now we have time to restore them. As repair drones activated throughout the ship, Jack looked at the tactical display showing the crippled Krell cruiser. What happens when the Vengeance is fully operational? He asked quietly. Victor's hologram seemed to stand taller. Then we reveal the truth about the war. Then we give humanity back its freedom. And then, Jack added, we become the deadliest ship in the universe. Admiral Dorax, we've lost contact with the scout cruiser. The Krell admiral turned slowly from the viewport of his command ship, his yellow eyes narrowing to slits. Unlike the common soldiers, Dorax was massive, his scaled skin bearing the ceremonial scars of 100 battles. The four arms of his upper body were adorned with the metal bands of high rank. Show me the last transmission, he ordered. His communication officer, a smaller Krell, quickly pulled up the data. The screen showed grainy footage of an old human warship suddenly lighting up, weapons deploying. Then static. Impossible, Dorax hissed. That ship was dead. We confirmed it decades ago. The energy readings before transmission loss were unusual, the science officer reported, not consistent with known human technology. Dorax slammed one of his fists on the command console. Prepare the battle fleet. I want that ship found and destroyed. 3 days had passed since the battle with the Krell cruiser. On the bridge of the UES Vengeance, Jack sat in the captain's chair, watching as repair drones worked tirelessly throughout the ship. Lisa and Tom, who had been picked up from a secret rendezvous point, managed different stations. Shield capacity now at 60%, Victor reported, his hologram standing beside Jack. Main weapons at 48%, engines at 70%. Not enough to face a real battle fleet, Tom said, looking up from the engineering console. Jack nodded. How long until we're at full power? At current repair rate, approximately 2 weeks, Victor replied. Lisa shook her head. We don't have 2 weeks. Every Krell ship in the sector will be looking for us. Then we don't stay here, Jack decided. Victor, can we jump to FTL? The faster-than-light drive is operational, but with limitations. We cannot sustain maximum speed. We don't need maximum. We just need to keep moving. Jack stood up and walked to the large tactical display. Show me human colonies within our range. A map appeared, showing dozens of small dots representing human settlements scattered across several star systems. We can't go to any major colony, Lisa warned. The Krell will be watching them all. What about here? Jack pointed to a small dot on the edge of the map. Outpost 37. It's a mining facility. Small population, minimal Krell presence. Victor analyzed the location. A viable option. They have resources we could use for repairs. Set course, Jack ordered. Tom, what else do we need besides basic repair materials? The old engineer thought for a moment. If this ship is as advanced as Victor claims, we need specialized components. Quantum processors, adaptive metal alloys. Things you won't find at a mining outpost. Victor's hologram flickered as he processed this information. There is another option. The Vengeance was equipped with an advanced manufacturing system. With raw materials, we can fabricate most components we need. Really? Tom's eyes widened. I've never heard of technology like that. Because it was never shared with the wider human fleet, Victor explained. The Vengeance was a prototype in every way. The ship shuddered slightly as the FTL drive engaged. Through the viewport, stars stretched into lines as they accelerated. What else can this ship do that we don't know about? Lisa asked. Victor's hologram seemed to stand straighter. The Vengeance houses 3 key technologies that were revolutionary. The adaptive defense system, which learns from attacks and strengthens accordingly. The manufacturing system Tom will find useful. And most importantly, a solution to the Krell FTL flaw. The flaw you mentioned before, Jack remembered. The one that started the war. Correct. Human scientists discovered that the Krell faster-than-light drives create microscopic tears in spacetime. Each tear is insignificant, but the cumulative effect over centuries would be catastrophic, potentially collapsing travel routes and even inhabited systems. Lisa frowned, and the Krell attacked us instead of fixing the problem. Their leadership feared losing their technological advantage over other species, Victor explained. They believed conquering humanity would bury the knowledge forever. But it didn't, Jack said, looking at the AI. Because of you, because of this ship. Victor nodded. The Vengeance carries complete records of human research, including a modified FTL drive design that eliminates the flaw. Tom whistled. No wonder the Krell want this ship destroyed. Which is why we need to be ready when they find us, Jack said. And they will find us. They reached Outpost 37 a day later. The small mining facility orbited a rocky planet rich in rare minerals. After some tense communication, the outpost human administrator agreed to help them, partly out of curiosity, partly from fear of the massive warship that had appeared on their doorstep. As loading drones transferred mining material to the Vengeance, Jack stood in a small observation room with Greg, the outpost administrator. You understand what helping us means, Jack said quietly. When the Krell find out, they'll punish us, Greg finished. His face was lined with years of hard work. We know the risk, but if what you've told me is true, about the war, about what this ship can do, it's worth it. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the outpost. A young woman burst into the room. Krell ships, she shouted, just dropped out of FTL. 5 cruisers and a command carrier. Jack's blood ran cold. He activated his comm. Victor, what's our status? Loading is 70% complete. Shields at 65%. Weapons at 52%. Not enough, Jack muttered. He turned to Greg. Get your people to safety. We'll draw them away. Back on the Vengeance, Jack rushed to the bridge. Lisa was already at her station. "It's Admiral Dorax," she said grimly, "the Krell's most decorated fleet commander." On the main screen, they could see the approaching Krell ships, sleek, predatory vessels forming a hunting formation around an enormous command carrier. "They're hailing us," Tom reported. Jack nodded. "Put them through." The screen changed to show Admiral Dorax. Even through the transmission, his presence was intimidating. "Human vessel," Dorax said, his voice deep and cold. "You have stolen Krell property. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Jack glanced at Victor, who nodded slightly. "This ship is not Krell property," Jack replied firmly. "It's human-built with human technology. Technology your people tried to bury along with the truth." Dorax's upper arms crossed. "You know nothing of truth, human. Your species was contained for the greater good of all spacefaring races." "You mean for the greater good of the Krell Imperium," Jack countered. "We know about the FTL flaw, Admiral. We know why you really attacked us." For a moment, Dorax seemed shocked. Then his face hardened. "You will not leave this system alive," he hissed, cutting the transmission. "Krell ships moving into attack formation," Lisa reported. Jack sat in the captain's chair, feeling the weight of command. "Victor, what are our options?" "We cannot win a direct confrontation yet," the AI admitted. "But the Vengeance was designed for asymmetric warfare." "Meaning?" "We don't need to defeat them. We just need to survive long enough to complete our mission." Tom looked up. "The mining outpost has deep tunnels running through the planet's asteroid belt. We could use them to hide and strike." Jack nodded. "Like the old submarine warfare from Earth's history. Set course for the asteroid belt. Let's show Admiral Dorax that the hunt won't be as easy as he thinks." As the Vengeance accelerated toward the asteroid field, Jack watched the approaching Krell fleet. The forgotten ship was awakening more with each passing day. Soon, it would truly become the deadliest in the universe. But first, they needed to survive. For 2 days, the Vengeance played a deadly game of hide-and-seek among the asteroids. Admiral Dorax's fleet hunted relentlessly, but the ancient warship proved surprisingly elusive. In the ship's manufacturing bay, Tom worked tirelessly with the automated systems. His face was streaked with sweat and grease as he inspected a newly created component. "Amazing," he muttered. "This technology is centuries ahead of anything I've ever seen." Lisa entered the bay, carrying a datapad. "Jack wants an update. How are the repairs coming?" Tom held up the shiny piece of equipment. "Better than expected. This adaptive metal can integrate with damaged systems without full replacement. We're up to 78% on shields and 70% on weapons." "Good," Lisa said, glancing at her pad. "Because our luck is running out. The Krell have changed tactics. They're using sensor drones to map the entire asteroid field." Tom's expression darkened. "How long until they find us?" "Hours, maybe less." Back on the bridge, Jack studied the tactical display with Victor. The Krell ships were systematically cutting off escape routes, tightening their net around the Vengeance. "We need more time," Jack said. "Another day would get us to nearly full capacity." Victor's hologram indicated the map. "There is one option, Captain. This section of the asteroid field extends into the planet's radiation belt. The radiation would mask our signature, but it would also affect our shields." "And the crew?" "The command center has additional shielding. It would be unsafe elsewhere on the ship." Jack nodded. "Do it. Tom and Lisa can join me in the command center. Route all critical functions there." As the Vengeance pushed deeper into the radiation belt, the Krell sensor drones lost track of it. Admiral Dorax, watching from his command ship, slammed his fist on his chair. "Find that ship," he roared. "Deploy more drones. They cannot hide forever." His science officer approached cautiously. "Admiral, our analysis of the debris from our damaged cruiser is complete. The human vessel appears to be using technology that matches theoretical designs from our own research division." "What are you saying?" Dorax growled. "The humans may have solved the FTL stability problem. that our scientists have been working on for decades. Dorax went very still. The Imperium Council must never know this. Find that ship and destroy it completely. No debris, no survivors. Inside the radiation belt, the Vengeance continued its rapid healing. With Tom's guidance, the manufacturing systems worked at maximum capacity. Repair drones swarmed over damaged sections, replacing worn parts with new ones. In the command center, Jack reviewed the ship's capabilities with Victor. The AI displayed a complete status report. Shields now at 91%. Weapons at 85%. Engines at full capacity, Victor reported. Most importantly, the adaptive defense system is fully online. Explain that again, Jack said. How exactly does it work? The system analyzes incoming attacks and reconfigures our defenses in real time, Victor explained. Each hit we take makes us stronger against similar attacks. Additionally, our weapons systems can adapt to target enemy vulnerabilities. Lissa looked up from her console. Movement detected. The Krell fleet is repositioning. They're setting up a blockade around the radiation belt. They're preparing for our exit, Jack said. How many ships? All 6, Lisa replied. They've called in reinforcements too. 3 more cruisers just arrived. Jack's face hardened. 9 ships, including a command carrier. Those aren't great odds, even with our technology. They are also broadcasting a message, Victor added. To all nearby systems. Jack frowned. Play it. Admiral Dorax's voice filled the command center. Attention all vessels. A dangerous human terrorist ship has been cornered in the Outpost 37 system. As a precaution, the outlying human mining colony must be evacuated immediately. Any humans remaining after 6 hours will be considered part of the terrorist faction. He's going to punish the mining colony for helping us, Lisa said quietly. Tom shook his head. There are 5,000 people on that outpost. They'll never evacuate in time. Jack stood up, his mind racing. He's forcing our hand. We either stay hidden and let those people suffer, or we come out fighting. Even at near full capacity, we cannot defeat 9 Krell warships simultaneously, Victor cautioned. Then we don't fight them all at once, Jack said. He turned to the tactical display. Show me the Krell formation. The screen displayed the enemy ships, arranged in a half circle around the edge of the radiation belt. They're expecting us to run, Jack observed. But what if we don't? What if we target just one ship, the command carrier? Admiral Dorax's ship, Lisa asked. It's the most heavily armed and shielded. Yes, but it's also the brain of their operation, Jack replied. Victor, can't we send a targeted transmission to the other human colonies? Something the Krell can't block. The Vengeance has a quantum communication system designed to bypass standard jamming, Victor confirmed. What do you have in mind, Captain? Jack's eyes gleamed with determination. The truth. It's time everyone knew it. Admiral Dorax stood on the bridge of his command carrier, watching the radiation belt. His fleet was positioned perfectly. When the human ship emerged, it would face overwhelming firepower from all directions. Admiral, his communication officer called urgently. We're detecting unauthorized transmissions across all frequencies. Jam them. Dorax ordered. We can't. It's using some kind of technology we've never seen before. On screens across dozens of worlds, human colonies, alien outposts, even Krell military bases, a message began playing. It showed technical data about the Krell FTL drives, the fatal flaws in their design, and evidence of the Krell leadership's decision to attack Earth rather than acknowledge the problem. Most damning of all was historical footage from the Vengeance's databanks, showing the unprovoked first strike against Earth's cities. Shut it down. Dorax roared, but it was too late. At that moment, alarms blared across his ship. The Vengeance had emerged from the radiation belt, not running away, but charging directly at the command carrier. All ships, open fire. Dorax commanded. The Krell fleet unleashed a barrage of weapons. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human warship. But something impossible happened. The Vengeance's shields shimmered, adapting to each impact. What damage it did take seemed to heal almost instantly. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Jack gripped his chair as the ship shuddered under the assault. Adaptive defense at maximum, Victor reported, learning and counteracting their weapon signatures. Target the command carrier's engines and weapons, Jack ordered. Disable, don't destroy. The ancient human warship fired. Its weapons struck with surgical precision, cutting through the Krell vessel's defenses as if they weren't there. Throughout the sector, ships of many species watched the broadcast and the battle. They saw the forgotten human ship, outnumbered 9-1, fighting not for destruction, but for truth. As the command carrier's main weapons went offline, Jack opened a channel. Admiral Dorax, this ends now. Your fleet has seen the truth. The other worlds have seen it too. The war began because your leaders chose pride over safety. But we're not seeking revenge. Jack looked at Victor, then at his friends, before continuing. The Vengeance carries the solution to the FTL flaw. We're offering it freely to all species, including the Krell. This ship was never just a weapon. It was humanity's gift to the future, a future we can all share. One by one, the Krell ships powered down their weapons. Even Dorax, faced with the undeniable truth and the superior technology of the ancient warship, realized the battle was lost. The forgotten ship had become the deadliest in the universe, not through destruction, but through the power of long-buried truth. Jack Harlow, captain of the UES Vengeance, looked out at the stars and smiled. His ancestor would be proud. The ship had fulfilled its true mission at last.